Okay, our final topic today is dealing with the distributive property. So I've got a description at the top of our notes here. When a number or variable is written directly in front of a set of parentheses, so meaning like there's no sign in between the parentheses and the number, it must be multiplied by everything. So we're multiplying by everything inside the parentheses. So just to show some generic examples of this, if we had a number, in this case we're going to be having variables, a parentheses and inside the parentheses b plus c, then the distributive property says we're going to take this value a and we're multiplying it with both of the numbers inside the parentheses, so we end up with a times b, or ab, plus a times c, or ac. Doesn't matter if that variable is written out front or at the end of the parentheses. Again, the parentheses and the number have nothing in between them. So we end up, again, distributing. That a goes to both of those terms, and we end up with BA plus CA. Same thing because of that associative property. No, commutative property. And again, it doesn't matter what sign is inside the parentheses either. If we had A times B minus C, we would be doing the distribution just like the others. That would give us AB minus AC. Okay, and again, we could swap and have that A be on the other end of our parentheses. Just some reminders as we are doing this multiplication. A negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a positive equals a negative. And a positive times a positive is, of course, a positive. So important to remember. Another thing that's helpful to remember when we're doing this multiplication, x times x is x squared. If we had x squared times x, that would actually give us x cubed. So those are going to be helpful as you're working through the inside of this booklet. Let's do an example with some actual constants and values so we can see how this simplifies and how we can go through this. So again, I'm going to take this to, I like drawing the arrows to show, hey, here's everything that 2's got to work with, so that I can just check back with my work and say, did I hit everything? Because a lot of times we'll get the first guy and then sort of forget about that 7. So this means 2 times 3x, right, plus 2 times negative 7. And you're not going to have to write this whole thing out every time, but I just want to make sure that we understand what's going on here. Then we would do the multiplication, so we'd end up with 6x. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And so that ends up being our actual simplified answer. Last thing on here is this thing of what I've got written, which is an important thing to note. This is where we see a lot of those mistakes. So if there is no number or variable, I'm going to highlight this, no number or variable written directly in front of a set of parentheses, a 1 should be drawn in front, okay? The 1 is going to be either positive or negative. We're looking at the sign in front of the parentheses. So here's an example. And so what I mean by the number or variable written directly in front, we've got a 5. We have this negative sign between the 5 and the parentheses. So this is a time when we would rewrite this. And some people feel like it's helpful too. Some people don't need this extra step, but we would rewrite and say we've actually got a 1 out in front. And so that helps us to know what we're going to do as we distribute. So we're going to be distributing this negative 1 to both of those pieces. And when we distribute a negative 1, basically what we're doing is we're changing the sign. I'm making a video! 5 minus 4x, and negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2. People were telling me to go home. Sorry. Okay, and now we've got to combine like terms, CLT, because this isn't fully simplified. We've got 2 constants in here that we could group together. So we've got a 5 and a negative 2. So we're going to start with a negative 4x just because it is so low. No like terms, poor guy. And then 5 and negative 2 to make the negative 3. So that ends up being our final answer. Go ahead and work through the inside of your booklet now. So, and if you look up at the top, you're going to simplify by using the distributive property. And each of these original expressions highlight what needs to be distributed. So like with number 1, I would highlight that -2 so that I know that I'm going to be distributing the -2. Down to number 3, we've got the sign in between the number and the parentheses. So first I'm going to put in a 1 to say, hey, we're actually going to be multiplying by -1, and then I can go ahead and highlight that whole -1 so I know what I'm going to be multiplying each term inside by. Okay, good luck.